So continuing the season review series, today we are heading up to Alberta as we take a look. No, not the Calgary Flames. We already talked about them. We're going to be taking a look at the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the rest of that Oilers team. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And let's take a look at the Edmonton Oilers. All right, so as we continue the season review series, let's head up to Edmonton. The Edmonton Oilers, led by Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, one of the best 1-2 punches in the NHL for sure. But the success has not been there for the Edmonton Oilers. They've been missing the playoffs more than they have made them in the tenure of Connor McDavid with this Edmonton Oilers team. The Connor McDavid era has not been to the playoffs enough, and that's very unfortunate because arguably the best player in the NHL is not in the postseason more often than not. So that's definitely disappointing there. So the Edmonton Oilers, under new general manager Ken Holland, we're hoping to change that. And obviously he had a lot of work to do taking over Peter Chiarelli, who pretty much burned this team to the ground besides keeping Draisaitl and McDavid. So we are going to take a look at the goals for, goals against, and the record for the Edmonton Oilers. So starting things off, the goals for, 225 goals for this season. For the Edmonton Oilers, that's the 11th best in the NHL. Not too bad overall. Goals against, 217 goals against this season, 17th in the NHL. Again, not terrible, but definitely could be better. The interesting thing here is the goals for is fairly low when you consider you've got McDavid and Draisaitl putting up at least 100 points a season. So what about everybody else on the Edmonton Oilers team? That's right, there isn't much. Looking at the record, 37, 25, and 9 on the season. That's 83 points for the Edmonton Oilers, second best in that Pacific Division, obviously behind the Vegas Golden Knights. So the Edmonton Oilers are in a pretty weak division. They should be making the playoffs pretty much every year, especially with McDavid and Draisaitl. You look at the Los Angeles Kings, the San Jose Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks, all the California teams. I would say the Oilers should be better than them. You've got the Arizona Coyotes. They were starting to climb things up. They brought in Taylor Hall. But let's be honest, they still should be below the Edmonton Oilers. And that's it. And then you've got Vegas. So, the Edmonton Oilers definitely are in a situation where they should be making the playoffs right now, without question. They should be one of the top 3 teams in that Pacific Division. With the way the playoff format is, they definitely should be getting into the playoffs. But that's just how it goes sometimes. So now we look at the top point producers for the Edmonton Oilers, and we've got Oscar Klefbom with 34 points on the season. Zach Kassian, 34 points for Kassian this year. A great season, again, for Zach Kassian. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with 61 points on the year, so a huge jump in the point production there. Connor McDavid with 97 points on the season. Interesting because he's number 97. And then you've got Leon Draisaitl with 110 points on the year. So the Edmonton Oilers, man, a pretty solid season for the Edmonton Oilers up front in terms of guys like McDavid and Draisaitl once again. And we didn't even finish the season, and Draisaitl had 110 points. There were still at least 20, 30 games left in the NHL season. So that's pretty good there for Leon Draisaitl. Would he have been healthy and things like that? I don't know. But based off of his production, he was on pace for an unbelievable season and probably going to win the Hart Trophy this season. So now we look at the prospects. I mean, the Edmonton Oilers have some decent players already, but they could definitely use a little bit of firepower up front, and that's what a guy like Kailer Yamamoto could bring to the Oilers. A little bit of speed, a little bit more skill than some of the players they already have there in Edmonton. Kailer Yamamoto got a little bit of time up in the NHL last season, but I think next season, if played in the right position, he should be in that top 6 with at least Draisaitl or McDavid most of the season and be able to grow as an NHL player. We know how things worked out with Jesse Puljujarvi. The second things didn't work out in the top 6, he was buried in the American Hockey League. So hopefully the Oilers do not do that. I don't think Ken Holland will do that. He's pretty good at developing players. And then looking at some other guys, you've got Ethan Bear, Caleb Jones, who both saw a little bit of time in the NHL this season. And not to mention the former first-round pick from last season for the Edmonton Oilers, Philip Broberg, who I think there's a very high potential ceiling for Broberg in the NHL. He has the same nationality as Oscar Klefbom, so we'll see how that Swedish duo. How does that work? I think this is a really good pickup for the Edmonton Oilers at last year's NHL draft to help solidify that blue line. But they definitely need some help in the top six on the wings because Draisaitl and McDavid, really, they could use a little bit of help. We saw Cassian have a pretty solid season. Nugent Hopkins, obviously, but you need a little bit more production from the wing. I think that's going to be a huge thing that the Oilers try to address in the offseason. We've heard that they are interested in trying to bring in Taylor Hall, who would definitely add to that, which is kind of a reunion for Taylor Hall. I don't think Taylor Hall will be interested in going back to Edmonton, but maybe for the right price, maybe he would consider it. And then obviously in between the pipes has been a little bit of a carousel every season, it seems like, for the Edmonton Oilers. Not much stability with a guy like Washington Capitals goaltender Braden Holtby, possibly a free agent this summer. There's been talk that the Edmonton Oilers' agenda is to get a big guy like Braden Holtby and possibly Taylor Hall as well. I don't know how they're going to do that, but I think Braden Holtby definitely has some potential to be an Edmonton Oiler in the fall. So we'll see what happens with that. So if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, you want to see the latest news around the NHL and the rest of this season review series, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.